All right, welcome back. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit different, not unboxing or anything like that. Not a super active member of the comic book community. However, I am a collector and know a little bit about the community. Certainly not as much as the all-in guys, but I also have some business acumen. And I can tell you that this new CGC scam that's going on is going to have huge repercussions throughout the industry. So I don't know if it's going to happen immediately or if it's going to happen, in the course of years, months, weeks, or whatever. But I predict that it will happen. So the first thing is CGC, when they first started grading, when they first offered this guarantee, if you will, certified guarantee, they should have known from past experience in other industries, security industries, pharmaceutical industries, food, drug industries, that kind of thing, that tamper-resistant seals were created as a result of industries not doing a good job in the past. So you have this situation now that people have been cracking slabs for years for their own reasons. See if you can make a 9.6 into a 9.8 or whatever, right? However, of course, we know there's always somebody out there looking for a shortcut, making a buck. And so, there's a lot of scams out there. I recently ran into a scam where somebody sold me something on eBay, and it was in a poorly packaged envelope, and it was a slab, right? And it wasn't poorly packaged. Like, it was packaged so poorly that you knew that something was up. Like, nobody would do this if they were selling slabs, right? And so the guy immediately was like, hey, yeah, we'll have to put in an insurance claim. And I got a deal on this, and it was a good book. And, I'm saying to myself, you know what? Let me think about this a little. And as I thought about it, this guy is probably taking slabs, taking out good books, putting in good books. Less good books, right? Selling, he doesn't care, or she doesn't care what the price is. And what they do is they ship it off, right, in a envelope that's obviously not protective. And then when it inevitably shows up damaged, they'll put in a claim with the post office. Of course, it was damaged when they shipped it because they cracked the slab, right? So, because when I looked at this slab, this wasn't the kind of damage that would happen from shipping. This was the kind of damage that would have to have been purposeful, right? And so I called them out on it, and I didn't really want to play games. It was an inexpensive lesson, and I put in a complaint with eBay, and God knows if we'll ever hear. However, that was only a few weeks ago, and when this new thing came up, I was like, there's got to be a ton of scams out there. And the reason for these scams is because it's easy to unseal what CGC or any of these other companies have sealed, right? And there's no security measure to assure you or me or anybody that you're getting what you paid for or what CGC allegedly certified and allegedly graded and shipped to you, right? And we see reholdering and all that time, and we're like, all that kind of stuff all the time. I'm like, that's great. That's good for the industry, right? We could, it got damaged or whatever. But, they take it and they just put it in another one. I mean, you could have sent back, a Silver Surfer comic book, with a Hulk slab. And, are they even looking, right? And so I know that's kind of a crazy example, but I think the point is the same, that's what's happening here is, you could send something back to CGC and tell them that you're just, it was damaged. I want to, rehold this slab. And if they're not recertifying it, if they're not relooking at it, regrading it, they're just moving it in, presuming that whoever shipped it to them is, I don't know, honest? Well, anyway. So what CGC should have done from the beginning, and what they should have learned over years, because it's not like they haven't been around for a long time, is that you have to seal these things in a way that it's tamper-proof. And what I mean by tamper-proof, it doesn't keep you from tampering. It just means if you do tamper, it's obvious, okay? So if you look at a milk container, plastic milk container, a bottle of Tylenol, those are pretty basic but good examples. If you opened up the cap to either, and you saw that foil film thing if it was broken, peeled back, You wouldn't drink the milk and you wouldn't take the Tylenol. Okay, you know something was wrong. So my point here is whether you do something similar to that to the outside of the case. Okay, that's a non-sophisticated approach. If somebody breaks that, they can't unbreak it, right? They can't all of a sudden go to a point where, you know, that seal has been unbroken. It's not like glue where they can just put glue again. You can't see where the glue is because it's stuck together now. I'm talking at the seam. So there's something on the seam that if you pull it apart, once you do, it will be noticeable forever. So that's a simple approach. A sophisticated approach is create something where if you pull it apart and you, let's say it's airtight for the sake of conversation, once you break that airtightedness, if I didn't make up a word there, so if it's no longer airtight, maybe the oxygen that comes in can create a different color, right? So maybe the slab turns a different color or fogs up or something where it's obvious that even if they're able to seal it up again, the case itself will show that it's been opened. And what that does is that protects from, the ability for somebody to you can't, criminal activity will always exist. You're only trying to keep the honest. And so you're trying to keep people that wouldn't normally do criminal things from doing criminal things. And you're trying to stay ahead of the curve on the criminals to the best of your ability, right? Sooner or later, maybe they'll figure that out and go forward. But you got to make a serious attempt, because if you've got, some of the books back here that I have that are really, $100 book, $80 book, $200 book, whatever. I don't want to say who cares, but who cares, right? It's not an expensive book. It's not something that you're going to be, you're not going to lose, too much sleep. You'll be a little pissed, but you're not going to lose too much sleep. But, there are books out there that are worth tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and dare I say, millions. All of those books right now, the repercussions of what's going on right now, those slabs could become worthless. Not the books, but the slab, because the industry is going to have to change now. CGC is going to have to do something. And if you get, $1 million book, $500,000 book, the first Spider-Man, first Superman, whatever it may be, right? You've got a great book, and it's a CGC 8.2, 8.5, 9.2, whatever it might be, right? And you're thinking, I'm all set. Well, a lot of these people that deal in high-end books, they buy and sell them, right? There's going to be a point that I'm not going to give somebody $100,000, $1,000, $10,000, and so on, $500. I'm not going to give somebody that when it's got the old technology, because I can't trust, not them particularly or specifically, but I can't trust the methodology. I can't trust whether or not before it got in their hands, while it's been in their hands, or any time in between, that somebody hasn't tampered with it. And so once the new technology is created, which inevitably it will, mark my words on this, once that new technology is created, and it could be by a competitor instead of CGC, this might be their ability to say, we finally have a crack in the foundation, we're jumping in. If they create a technology that instead of looking like CGC and feeling and acting like CGC, if they create something that's completely different and actually is a security feature as well as graded, because, let's get right down to it. What we're looking for is we want to get what we paid for. And what I mean by that is everybody and anybody, doesn't matter whether you're buying socks, automobiles, cars, televisions, cell phones, food, or comic books. If you think that this is what you're buying and you're willing to pay that price, you want to get what you paid for, okay? It's a pretty simple philosophy. Now, the foundation has been cracked, kids. It's over, okay? There's a certain point where when you look back, I probably have, 70, 80 slabs, right? I don't feel good about any of them. Any of them. Now, even though I sent them out and I got them back, 80-20%. What I mean by that is I bought 20 that were slabbed, the other 80% I sent out myself. It doesn't matter, because if I want to someday sell these or pass them down to my children or whatever, I have to believe that there's a credibility that goes along with it, or it's going to be starting from scratch. And so what I got is a 9.8 yesterday. You know, we all know how this wild card works. You send it in again, and maybe it's not a 9.8 again, right? And so every slab that every one of us has, every one of us, because you know yourself, you're not going to buy a slab in the future that's expensive. You're not going to, if you're worried. And yeah, you can look and you can say, you know what, that's a reputable seller. That seller is really reputable. I know that person. But you don't know the person that person got it from, or the person before, and so on. We have no idea. And especially books of value, because those books are, you know, golden age and silver age books, bronze age, you know, 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever, you know, however far back it goes, years old. This is going to create a huge rift. I mean, a huge rift. And the ripple that's going to go through the industry, I think, is going to be the biggest one ever. In the long run, does it make it better? Ooh. So again, like in everything else in world, it makes it better for the big guys, because CGC and all the other companies are going to get busier now, because all of our books that we thought were slabbed forever, we're going to want to reslab. And so we're going to reslab a percentage of them, right? So now they've just created their own little boutique industry. I'm not saying they did it, you know, I don't know who did it, okay? But I'm going to tell you that they're going to create a boutique industry as long as they don't get sued. If they get sued by a group of comic book folks that say, hey, where's your guarantee? Where's your certification? Because it's worthless, right? And if that lawsuit prevails, well, that could be a problem. You might not see any of these grading companies in existence anymore until a new one emerges with different precautions. If that doesn't happen, what is going to happen is all of a sudden they're going to be 10 times busier. Yeah, it makes you a little suspicious. It makes me a little suspicious. I don't know the CGC or anybody else did it for this purpose, but I'm just going to tell you, I know how opportunism works. Opportunistically speaking, somebody's going to say, you know, we better start hiring, because what's going to happen is, well, you and I weren't sending our books in right now because we're like, the industry's down, prices are down, I'm not going to spend the money, you know, because I'm not going to get a return, etc. Well, if you've got nice books that you're worried about and that you want to, you know, possibly sell, or you want to make sure that it's not a problem for whoever's going to inherit your books or whatever, you're going to send them back in. And I'm just going to tell you right now, in my mind, knowing now that we realize that every slabbed comic book in existence has no guarantee, even though we probably knew that before, now we're really keenly aware of it. I think it's going to be a huge problem in the industry. You know, I had all sorts of notes here. I've ignored them because I just kind of blabbered on. But I think there's a lot of people that are actually in the industry, and a lot of people that are in the community. So I'm peripherally in the community in the sense where, you know, I've been collecting comics for, I don't know, 30 years or whatever, right? But you know, I'm not one of those everyday guys. However, those of you, whether you clean and press, grade, whether you own comic book stores, sell on eBay or other places, you know, other auction houses, whether you get YouTube presence, whatever it may be, each of you have a little better pulse on, you know, what comic book comes out and what character and who the writer is and who the artist is. But I gotta tell you, what's going on here has nothing to do with comic books. It has to do with good and bad business, and it has to do with secure and unsecure practices. And so I don't want to profess to be an expert, but I do have a little bit of background in it, and I do have business acumen, and I'm a pragmatist. And my prediction to each of you is hold on tight.